absolute champions? Ever wondered how to play Frost DK in PvP? Well, this is the video for you.
In this video, I'll show you the best talents, the stats, the gear you should go afterwards, the enchants, the gems, the consumables, the normal rotation, and of course, the burst rotation. Everything I'll be covering in this guide, you can find down in the description of this video.
Let's go kick some ass.
This season, so far, we're not playing with a two-hander anymore. We're only going to go dual wield, which seems to be the most effective at this moment. Talents, something has changed in comparison to the last season, which I'll go over. If you look at the left tree, the Death Knight tree, like this is your standard tree that you want to go for. There's not a lot you want to change in this one as well. You want to go to null magic at the end, A-bomb limb to help you with a big AoE burst, which I'll show later in the guide. And then some defensive utility options as well. Of course, a fixate is a must. And yeah, here I think perforating chill is also a really good one because yeah, you can massively slow the enemy, which is really useful. For example, if you play Battleground Blitz to just change of ice, multiple enemies at the same time, really gonna piss them off. And it's a really general build for Death Knight, and the left side you just don't change. You have a nice defensive sacrificial pact, of course, gives you some healing, brittle bite, which has a chance that you'll deal increased damage to your enemies. And there are some optional things here as well, I would say. There are two optional ones in my opinion, which are Wrath Walk and Grip of the Dead. Wrath Walk is totally optional. It's, for me, I like it because it can get me out of roots and slow, so I can either chase down a target or I can escape and try to get to safety. It's not necessary. I also see people just dropping this one, and they really seem to like to put it into Death's Reach, which makes sure to increase the range of your Death Grip by 10 yards. And of course, killing an enemy that yields experience or honor resets the cooldown of Death Grip. The nice thing about Death's Reach is, like, because of the extended range, not a lot of people will expect you to grab their healer on the other side of the map from that pillar towards you in arena fights, for example. This really can catch people off guard, and for you it's kind of like a guarantee. No matter where they are, you have a really high chance you can just grab them towards you and start doing a lot of damage or apply CC or whatever you need to do. So that's what I see people do as well a lot. I just like to have Wrath Walk just for some extra mobility, which you really need as a Death Knight, because mobility as Frost Death Knight is kind of horrendous at the moment. So I think Wrath Walk, I would advise it. Grip of the Dead is another nice one, I think, but you can swap it out. Make sure that Death and DK reduce the movement speed of enemies within this area by 90%, decaying by 10% every second. In general, this will make sure your Death and DK will be an AoE slow and a massive one. And this one really helps me out with the burst rotation, which I'll cover later in this guide. But I also see some people, but it's not majority. Majority still runs with Grip of the Dead. You can swap this one out and also put it into Death's Reach if you want to. Or if you want to have some extra tankiness, you can even put it into Permafrost, so that your auto attacks will grant you an absorb shield to equal to 30% of the damage dealt. And because we're doing dual wielding, this will add up to a lot of passive healing or damage reduction prevention. This is the build that I would advise you to go with on the Death Knight side on the left tree. It's a really good standard build that you rarely have to change at all. On the right side, on the Frost talent tree, there are some things we've changed, of course, but I'll go over it quickly. You want to, of course, pick up your most important things like your Pillar of Frost for your big burst. You want to make your way down to Arctic Assault. We're not going with the Long Winter anymore, which I'll cover shortly. And you want to go with Shattered Frost here at the end as well. These talents tree really make sure that your dual wielding does a lot of sustained damage. And what do I mean with that? Well, we'll go here with Arctic Assault at the end. So you have to take a Bone Grinder. Obliteration is an absolute must, like while Pillar Frost is active, Frost Strike and Howling Blast always grant Killing Machine and have a 30% chance to generate a rune. This one is a must, you can't go without, otherwise your burst will be very weak. And then after that you want to go with Arctic Assault. Consuming Killing Machine fires a Glacial Advance through your target at 80% effective. And again, because you're bursting and you're guaranteeing Killing Machines all the time, this one will just add up in your burst damage. So absolute must in my opinion. On this side, I want to go with Smothering Offense. Your auto attack damage is increased by 10%, which is nice because we're dual wielding. This amount is increased for each stack of Icy Talons. You have it and can stack it up to 2 additional times. Icy Talons will make sure your attack speeds gets increased, as you can see right here on the left tree. Your runic power spending abilities increase your melee attack speed by 6% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. So that is a possible 30% extra attack speed, which is really nice for the dual wielding build. It makes you more tankier and also will deal more sustained damage. Down below we go with Icy Death Torrent. Your all attack critical strikes have a chance to send out torrent of ice, dealing an extra amount of frost damage to enemies in front of you. And of course, you're dual wielding, you're already attacking faster, and with icy talents you'll attack even faster. So you have more procs of Icy Death Torrent, which just adds up on your damage. Here in the middle we'll go with Frostwind's Fury, which is really helpful to make your burst very lethal, and you can AoE stun people. You'll take absolute 0, so in that case, like the cooldown is reduced, you can have your Frostwind's Fury back more easily. And over here we go with Avalanche. Casting Hurling Blast with Rhyme active causes Jagged Icicle to fall on enemy nearby target, applying resources and dealing an X amount of frost damage. You'll have this proc pretty often, and yeah, it can do some damage. You go down here with Shattering Blade. When frost strike damage an enemy with 5 stacks of resources, it will consume them to deal an additional 115% damage. One quick note with Shattering Blade, you have to apply the Rune of Resources, Rune Forge, on one of your weapons in order for this one to have any effect. If you don't, this talent is useful, so be very careful with that, guys. You have to apply the resources Rune Forge. And then you go down here with Shattered Frost. When Frost Strike consumes 5 stacks of resources, it deals 60% of the damage dealt to nearby enemies and deals reduced damage beyond 8 targets. If you're bursting, because your burst is all about AoE damage, cleaving everyone down, this one just adds another cleave effect onto it, and yeah, it can make your AoE goes very lethal. And what I said like about last season, what we're not going with is with the long winter. And you were like, Dirk, why do you do that? Well, while Pillar of Frost is active, your auto attack, critical strikes increase its duration by 2 seconds up to a maximum of 6 seconds.
And I hear you thinking, why don't you take that one, Dirk? It seems really important, right?
Well, let me explain to you. The thing now with the PvP talents, you have a new talent right here, which is Death's Cold Embrace. And you can read right here, Pillar of Frost grants you Remorseless Winter, which is nice, and increases damage by 400% and its radius by 150%. But your movement speed is heavily reduced for this duration. Pillar of Frost cooldown is also increased by 15 seconds. The reason why you don't want Pillar of Frost now to last longer is you'll move so slowly, even a snail can outrun you. It's absolute insane how slow it makes Death Knights. You can't use any movement enhancing abilities to get rid of that slow. So you'll just slow yourself even down for further. So don't pick that one, guys. While we're into the PvP talents anyway, guys, like as I told you, Death's Cold Embrace is just very important because it will add up on a lot of damage. Every time I do a Battleground Blitz or if I do arena fights, you'll just see how much damage this ability does by itself. With your Remorseless Winter, it's usually my top damage. It's absolutely insane how much damage this ability does. At the cost, of course, you're as immobile as a snail. Then another talent I really like to go with is Death Chill. It's a passive, your Remorseless Winter and Chains of Ice. Apply Death Chill, rooting the target in place for 4 seconds. This is nice just to annoy people and also with your burst, so to prevent people to get away quickly. Also Remorseless Winter, all targets within 8 yards are affected by the Death Chill when Remorseless Winter is cast. So if you pop Pillar of Frost, it will trigger Remorseless Winter, which then will trigger, of course, Death Chill. So everyone that gets hit will be rooted for 4 seconds. And then here we have Strangulate. I think is a very strong one against casters in general. This one I think is mandatory for majority of situations. However, if you think a silence is not needed and a stun with the normal asphyxiate is enough, you can swap this one out. Delirium is another nice one as well. But I think only in Battleground Blizzes is really nice, because then you make sure the cooldown of movement enhancing abilities will be increased for your enemy. So it will take longer for a demon to get a Felris back, for example. Really annoying. And if you want to be yourself a bit more tanky against physical classes, you can even go with Blood Force Armor, which makes sure Death Strike reduces all physical damage taken by 20%. For 3 seconds. However, it's totally situational. Like if you face a lot of hunters, you can take it. If you face off against a lot of warriors, you can take it. But in general, I still think Death Knights are kind of like paper, like we really die quickly against physical damage. I'm not sure if Blood Force Armor will save you more situations. A general build, a safe pick for PvP talents is the one right here.
Let's press on.
As for the stat priority for Frost Death Knights, you want to first stack Strength as high as you can, because Strength will amplify all of your damage, whether it's physical or magical. After that, you want to have some versatility, roughly to minimum 20% or to 25% I would advise, because it makes sure in PvP you'll deal a little bit more damage. And also you take reduced damage from other players, so it makes you more tanky. After that you want to have high amounts of haste, because haste will increase your attack speed, reduce the global, so you can get your abilities off quicker, which is very important for your burst. And also with your haste, your auto attacks are faster, And your auto attack critical strikes will have a chance to send out a wave of ice which deals damage for dual wielding build. It will give you more procs of killing machine. And the one thing with those auto attacks, like to send that ice wave, they have to be critical ones. So after haste, that's why I advise to have mastery and critical strike roughly around the same amount. Because mastery you need for some increased frost damage, which will be, for example, your remorseless winter, your howling blast, and really important, your frost strikes. And also like your Frostwind's Fury and critical strike again, because you need some critical strikes in your auto attacks, so you can send out those ice waves to deal damage with your auto attacks. But seeing the stat priority, critical strike is our least favorite stat, but then again it ties close to haste as well. Like both are really important. But how can we see like what is really important to turn into a tier set, for example, as well? Let me show you how to do it. If you go to the Adventurer's Guide, and here at the bottom you can see item sets, and here above are the item sets for PvP. This will show you which stats a tier set will give you. Tier set can be the head, the shoulders, the chest, the gloves and the legs. So I'm looking at which of these, because I want to have the 4 sets, so I have to cut one. I can only cut one of them out to not turn into a tier set, right? So I'm looking towards any that gives the highest amount of critical strike, and that is the one I'm gonna cut out from the tier set. We have the helmet, which gives haste versatility, which is nice. Another really safe pick is the shoulders, because it also gives haste and mastery, so really high amounts of haste, which is nice. Then we have the gloves, which give critical strike and mastery. Mastery, of course, is really nice, so I definitely want to have that one. And here we have the legs. This one gives a lot of critical strike if you compare it to the rest of them. So I think I can clearly say that for Season 2, I don't want to turn the legs into a tier set. I don't want that, because it gives highest amount of critical strike. For the rest of the gear, you want to ideally fill it up all with Conquer's gear as well. But here early in the season, you can also go with Bloody Tokens gear, which gets very close to Conquer's gear. And Bloody Tokens are very easy to farm, right? If you can find a group that chases after war crates in the open world PvP, you can rank up a lot of Conquest points and Bloody Tokens quite rapidly. Definitely worth giving a shot. What I would do as a crafted gear, my general advice early in the season, you should make every jewelry item into a crafted item piece. That means your necklace and your 2 rings.
And that should be covering the gear. Yeah, I think it does. Let's go. And I hear you thinking, what about the enchants, Dirk? What do I put on there?
Well, don't panic. I got you covered right here. So let's go over it. For the wrist, you want to go with the Enchant Bracelet Chant of Armored Leech. Or you can go with the Enchant Bracelet Chant of Armored Speed. For the cloak, you want to go with the Enchant Cloak Chant of Leeching Fangs or the Enchant Cloak of Burrowing Rapidly. Both are absolutely fine. For the chest, you want to have the Enchant Chest Oathsworn Strength, because again, strength affects all your damaging abilities. For the legs, you want to put a Stormbound Armor Kit on there. For the rings, both of them you can go with an Enchant Ring Cursed Mastery to buff up your mastery a bit. But you can also play around with haste if you feel like you need more haste. But that's something you have to test out, try out what you like more. For the boots, I would go with the Enchant Boots Defender's March. And for Frost Death Knights for the weapon, it's not a normal enchant, of course, because we have Rune Forging. So let me explain. For the dual wielding build, on your main weapon, you always go with Rune of Resources. Because that will make sure that with that talent we took before, you have to have 5 stacks of resources on them, consume them, and then your Frost Strike will hit for massive amounts of damage. Rune of Resources, absolute massive, absolute must. Put that one on your main weapon as a dual wield Frost Death Knight. On your offhand weapon, you have 2 options. The one option that is most generally used on your offhand for dual wielding is the Rune of the Fallen Crusader. It will heal you for roughly 4% of your health, and also give you 15% strength. And again, strength boosts all your damaging abilities. If you feel you're very, very squishy, what you can also do, you can swap out the Rune of the Fallen Crusader and put the Rune of the Stone Skin Gargoyle on there. That one I think increases your armor by 5 or 6% I think, and also increases all your stats by 5 or 6%. Which again is also strength, stamina, critical strike, haste. You get the point. But the most common one for dual wielding Frost is main hand Rune of Resources, offhand Rune of the Fallen Crusader. So for everyone who is wearing a big 2-hand as a Frost Death Knight, it's a bit different depending on the build you're going for. If you're going with the Breath of Cinder Grossa build, you have to put Rune of the Fallen Crusader on there. Because if you're lucky and you get a strength proc while you're about to burst, man, your burst is gonna go through the roof, absolutely insane. However, if you're not playing the Breath of Cinder Grossa build with the Shattering Blade one, which empowers your Frost Strikes, then again, you need Rune of Resources on your big two-hander. So for the big two-handers out there, if you play with the Breath of Synagosa build, Rune of the Fallen Crusader. If you're not, then go with the Rune of Resources for the Shattering Blade talent to be effective. That's about the enchantments, and I think now we can cover some gems and then after some consumables. Alright champions, let's talk about gems. Can be very brief about this one. I think there are 2 gems you generally need. One which is an absolute must is Enduring Bloodstone, which is kind of like a PvP gemstone. Will give you an X amount of primary stat. And also the really important one, it will give you 5% damage reduction when you are affected by a crowd control effect. So in PvP, if you're getting stunned, it makes it a bit harder for the enemy to kill you, to burst you down in the stun. Everything else, you want to put Masterful Emeralds on there, which give haste and mastery. That's all you need to know about the gems, and I think next we can go to the consumers where it gets interesting. Let's go. So we'll start off with consumers for alchemy, a flask of alchemical chaos. That one's nice because it increases a random secondary stat by an X amount at the cost of a really small amount of 2 other secondary stats. That one causes the most DPS gain, absolute must, and for a bursting potion you go with the tempered potion. It will increase a stat by an X amount for half a minute, which is again very nice. And also after that, what you can do as well, you can also, if you have the money for it, you can go for a crystallized augmentation rune, which increases your primary stat for an hour. And also what you can do on both your weapons if you're dual wielding, you can put Algara Mana Oil on there, which increases your critical strike and your haste. Critical strike is not that important, but the haste is really nice. And again, you can see that with dual wielding, you can put 2 Algara Mana Oils on there. And with a big two-hander, you can only put 1 on there. For some cooking consumables, you have a few options which kind of do the same. You have the Outsider's Provisions, Ballader's Bounty, Jester's Board, Emperor's Farewell, and all of them, when you spend at least 10 seconds eating, you'll become well fed and gain 470 of your highest secondary stat for an hour. Those are the best consumables for Frost Death Knights. I'll leave them down in the description of this video for you to read, so be sure to check it out. And I think it's time to go to the rotations. Normal rotation for Frost Death Knight is probably one of the easier in the game, to be honest. I'll just put a priority list here on the screen. Also put it down in the description so you can check it out. The normal rotation looks as follow. You in general want to start off with Chains of Ice on your target, or your primary target, to keep him slowed, so it's easy to have uptime on that person. You want to also maintain Howling Blast to apply Frost Fever. Important to note is you want to maintain Frost Fever on as many targets as you can, because it has a chance to generate additional runic power. You should also use Howling Blast whenever you have a Rhyme proc, because it will deal more damage. You should use Remorse's Winter off cooldown, but beware, when you're about to burst, you better hold on to Remorse's Winter when your Pillar of Frost is active. So then you can combine those two, because then it's easy for you to follow it with damage. You want to use Obliterate to generate runic power, or whenever you get a Killing Machine proc, and you want to use Frost Strike to spend runic power if you're not taking damage. The moment you're taking quite heavy damage, instead of using Frost Strike, you can use Death Strike to spend the runic power to heal you up for the portion of the damage you took. That's the normal rotation. You can see it on screen. I'll put it down in the description below so you can just read it through. And yeah, I'll go to a target dummy and I'll show you how it looks like. So here we are, the target dummy for the normal rotation. So we're gonna apply a Chains of Ice into Howling Blast. And then we can just Remorse's Winter, Obliterate, Howling Blast, Frost Strike, Obliterate. And we have nothing now, so we have to wait. Obliterate again, Frost Strike, Obliterate, Frost Strike, Howling Blast. You can, if you take damage, do a Death Strike right there. And here we have a Killing Machine proc, Obliterate, there we go. Like, that's in general how you do normal rotation. As a Death Knight, yeah, sometimes it's like a 2-button spec or 3-button spec. It's really easy to do.
This is the part you've been waiting for in this entire video. I'll teach you how to do the burst rotation and completely annihilate your enemy. Let's go!
Burst rotation is easier. You'll start off with an A-bomb limb to keep grabbing people towards you when you're about to burst. You'll Death Grip another person towards your location. You apply Blinding Sleet to prevent them from walking away. After that you go Frostwind's Fury for a group stun, does damage and spawns all 4 of your horsemen. Then you want to cast Empower Rune Weapon to smoothen out your burst rotation. After that, Pillar of Frost, which also triggers Remorse's Winter. Yeah, and massively slows you down now, is what it is, but does a lot of damage. Use Deafen Decay to slow people even further, because now it's a 90% massive AoE slow. And also it will make sure that your Obliterates will cleave, so it will add up to all the AoE pressure. And after the Death and Decay, you want to alternate between Obliterates and Frost Strikes or Howling Blast, if and only if you have a Rhyme proc. So I'll just display the burst rotation on the Stark and Dummy. You can also find the burst rotation in the description of this video as well, so you can check it out later. In general, you want to just change of eyes your main target, aim on limb to grab someone towards you, and then grab another off target and then do your whole burst. So let's go. Let's change of eyes, aim on limb, let's grab that guy, and there we go, Blinding Sheet, Frost and Fury, Pillar of Frost, Death and Decay. Now we're doing Obliterate into Frost Strike, Killing Machine, Obliterate, Howling Blast, Obliterate, Frost Strike, Obliterate, Howling Blast, Obliterate. And that's already the burst. Like Obliterate hits like a truck, guys. But Remorseless Winter as well. If this was an AoE situation where I was hitting multiple targets, Remorseless Winter would be absolute my top damage. Every time. We already reached the end of this video, guys. I want to take a quick moment to thank you all for watching the whole video till the end. A massive thank you. If you found this guide helpful, be sure to drop a like, share this guide out there, and consider becoming a member of the channel as well, or just subscribing for free. Both helps. Everything I mentioned will be down in the description of this video, so you can be sure to check it out and read through it at your own pace. Frost DK, guys, still in Season 2 seems to be doing very, very well. Even though a lot of people are panicking, Frost DK is bad. Well, you can absolutely still annihilate people. And I think I'm just gonna prove it by climbing rating, so you can join me on the journey, catch my live streams if you want. That will be it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next battle. Salute.